This is Sky News. In just a moment, the press preview. First look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. But first, our top stories. Israel says it's looking into reports that an American-Turkish activist was killed in the West Bank after being shot in the head by Israeli forces. A man who tried to set fire to a hotel housing asylum seekers in Rotherham has been sentenced to 9 years, the harshest sentence yet imposed on last month's race rioters. The Royal Navy serviceman killed in a night-flying training exercise in the Channel on the 4th of September has been named as 31-year-old Lieutenant Rodri Laichon. You are watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. It's time to see what's making the headlines with the Conservative commentator, Tim Montgomery, and the Daily Mirror economist, Susie Boniface. They'll be with us from now until just before midnight. So let's see what's on the front pages of some of those papers for you now. Well, the Financial Times understands that Treasury civil servants are poised to tell the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, that the tax increases she desires are impractical. The Guardian leads with a report that Labour will act to ban no-fault evictions within months. The Mail reports that none of the Royal Navy's 6 attack submarines are currently at sea. The Mirror carries comments from Top Gear presenter Chris Harris, who says that prior to the accident involving his co-host Freddie Flintoff, he warned BBC bosses that someone could eventually be killed on the show. The Eye hears that weight loss pills, similar to the popular drug Ozempic, could soon be available on the NHS. The Telegraph reports that interim England manager Lee Carsley won't sing God Save the King at their Nations League match against the Republic of Ireland tomorrow because he used to play for the latter team and is worried it could cause upset over historic tensions. The Express calls on the Lord of the Rings actor, Sir Ian McKellen, to return his knighthood for describing the late Queen as rude. But the Star takes his comments rather less seriously. And a reminder that by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch us. And we're joined tonight by Tim Montgomery and Susie Boniface. Welcome to you both. Let's start with the Times front page. The headline there, Rich ready to quit UK over budget tax threat. I mean, this is sort of a headline that we've heard very many times in the past, that the rich are going to take off and skedaddle because they're not going to pay higher taxes. Is there any more truth in it this time, Susie?
No. Moving on to the next story. No, this is a corporate tax partner. There are people who work with high net worth individuals, which is what all these stories are about. It's always about the people who work for them warning of this. It's not the individuals themselves ever saying, right, that's it, I've got a plane ticket, I'm off. There's corporate tax partners saying, you know, I've had clients phone me up saying, I don't know what I'm going to do, we're going to have to leave, blah, 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 blah. It's upsetting my retirement plannings, I don't know where the taxes are coming from, blah, blah, blah.
So can we take it that they're not actually getting those calls, they're preempting?
Added to which, a billionaire who's got a tax advisor in this country, are they domiciled in this country 365 days of the year? Are they registered here for tax purposes? Are they, like J.K. Rowling, a billionaire who pays their full share of tax, raises their family here, is part of national life here, whether you like it or not, like Sir Alan Sugar? Do they run businesses here? Or are they just someone who floats in, has got a few houses in different places, and you know, getting taxed in different jurisdictions and worrying about how they shuffle their cash around? Because people like that, I'm quite happy. If you want to go, mate, off you go. Foxtrot Oscar, words I can't say on Sky. I'm holding back. But, you know, if you're here, you live here, you have your family here, you have your life here, you're part of life and you pay your taxes, dandy, let's try and keep you, whoever you are. If you are not partaking and if all you're moaning about is paying your fair share, then you're the kind of person who can happily go and live on the Bibby Stockholm, off you pop.
I'm still giggling at your way of concealing your foul language.
I talk about it, but I don't say it. There you go.
I have a slightly different answer, Gillian, to my comrade here, and I shall try and keep my language under control as well. But I actually have 2 friends in Salisbury I don't know whether they quite qualify as rich. One of them is quite wealthy. One is actively in quite advanced stages of thinking of leaving the country.
Oh, really?
And another is beginning to tentatively think about it. And it's not just tax, and it's not just about...
And this is since Labour came to power?
No, that's what I was going to say. It isn't just about
right.
Labour. I think Labour are making it worse. But we have to remember the tax take in Britain was at a record level under the Conservatives as well. And, you know, the rather sort of downbeat warnings that have recently been given by Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves suggest it's not going to be going down anytime soon, and certainly not on the wealthy. You add in certain worries about crime in London, you add in certain thoughts about the new employment laws coming in, and my friends are saying, is this the sort of business climate that I want to expand in? So even if Susie is completely right about whether these sort of people pay taxes, and I probably quibble with her a bit, they probably should pay more, but they contribute some taxes, they are employers. They do employ people in the British economy. They spend money here, some of them quite a lot of money. So economy that's already not exactly motoring as much as we would like to, is this the sort of news that we want? Do we really want to load more taxes, more regulations on the wealth creators when I thought it was the government's primary policy to actually accelerate growth? So, you know, time will tell whether Susie or I are more accurate. But if I was Labour, wanting to get Britain up the top of the league table of Western advanced countries, which apparently is the principal goal of this government, I would look very carefully into this sort of evidence and find out whether this is just a newspaper story or actually there's some substance to it.
But what you need to have is the data about how many of those people are, as you describe, wealth creators who are contributing and can contribute, or how, as I suspect, a good chunk of them are people who are not, a bit more fly-by-night, who are not paying their full taxes, who are keeping their stuff sheltered offshore, who are not benefiting us, and who we can wait.
And I don't like the people who come into our country and buy up all the property either. You know, there's certain people here who are pricing local people out of housing markets. We don't want every wealthy person in Britain if they're not really part of the economy. I buy that, but I think some of the people that we are talking about, that I know are considering leaving, are exactly the sort of people you'd want here.
Yeah, as you say, we need to know how many of the 9,500
I don't have any really rich friends, so I can't answer.
Well, I'm a Conservative, obviously, that's, you know, conform to caricature.
Par for the course for you, Tim. Let's stay with tax. Rachel Reeves was told that her tax rise plans could be unrealistic. This is one of the FT. Susie, take us into this.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, all of Whitehall at the moment, if you ask anybody anything, what's happening or what you're going to do about this, the answer to everything is it's under review. There's reviews everywhere. Every single policy is under review, every pricing is under review. And Rachel Reeves at the Treasury has asked every department to save some money. Now, that is going to be really difficult when you have departments like the Home Office who have got to find, somehow, a way of paying for about £10 billion worth of asylum accommodation, which the Tories knew about but didn't add into the budget, which contributed to the black hole they were talking about. So a lot of those departments, this story is saying, are going to come back and saying, do you know what, we don't have any cuts for you. You're going to have to... We actually need more, actually, for some of the stuff that you have said you're going to do. And I would agree with that. I think that most of the country would say, I think, after the past 14 years, that any further cuts are simply unsustainable. We cannot pothole any more of our public services any more than they already are and still have public services. It's what Keir Starmer has said he's not going to do. And I think that's where you have a bit of a clash, a bit of a pull, if you like, between Rachel Reeves at the Treasury, who is a fairly staid, traditionalist economist from the Bank of England, formerly, and Starmer and some of the people in his party who are like, we know we're more progressive, we need to change things, we're going to spend on different stuff. You can't just move the money around and shuffle it. She's going to have some sleight of hand in her October statement to say, I've cut something, but none of you are going to feel it. Well, to almost everybody.
You can't really do that.
And we're going to find the cash for the stuff they've promised to spend on something, and they're going to have to find something.
But Anna's saying that now is the time to make those painful cuts, because she can blame a lot of it on the previous government.
Well, I half agree with you, Gillian. Now is the time to enact pain. You know, because it's the start of a parliament, you enact measures now that you hope will begin to pay dividends by the time of the next election. So you can say, yeah, we took the tough decisions, but they paid off. But I don't think there necessarily should be cuts. I think what you should be doing at this stage is reform. You know, there's a lot in our public services that are very inefficient. Won't go into some of the detail, but, you know, NHS still using fax machines and things like that. There's lots of reforms that can be made to our public services in just basic efficiency. And Labour, particularly with something like the NHS, voters trust Labour with the NHS, much more than they trust my own party, the Conservative Party. This is the time for someone like Wes Streeting to be talking tough, acting tough, really bringing parts of the National Health Service into the 21st century. And I'm just worried there's a lack of imagination from this government. There's a lot of talk about tax and spending. Not saying that's not important, but actually we do need some very big changes to National Health Service. Not least if you compare how hospitals perform in different parts of the country. The performance is quite variable. Understanding why that is the case so that the worst hospitals come up to the level of the best hospitals. That's the sort of thing that I would like to be on the front pages of the newspapers being discussed by our new government. But it's that same old story of tax
But Wes
and
Streeting
spend.
is promising reform, isn't he?
Yeah, there is a lack of positivity in the government messaging.
Yeah.
It's been very poor, I think, the last couple of months. There's been lots of doom and gloom and not much positivity.
Especially the Green Party accusing them of that
exactly.
today.
But reforms cost a huge amount of money. They cost, and that's why you've got all these reviews underway, is trying to find ways they can have the reforms which are just going to be more productive. And that's why we saw today with Yvette Cooper's Home Office Summit, no big coming out, waving the flag announcements, we're going to lock people up or send them here or kill their cat or whatever it might be. Actually, we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about things, we're going to do horrible, boring paperwork that is going to maybe get us a bit further along the road, which is less exciting, but also not as expensive and is going to, you know, as the Rwanda plan, for example, and we're going to try and move things along in a more professional fashion. So it's boring and you can't sell it in the way that Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak sold a lot of their policies, a lot of hot air. But those reforms you talk about are hugely expensive. I mean, the Lansley reforms cost $24 billion and contributed to a lot of the problems we've got in the NHS today.
Some reforms are expensive, but I think this basic idea that there's some hospitals out there already with a similar sort of budget per head are doing an awful lot better than others. There should be a way of bringing best practice throughout the public service on the level throughout, across the country. That shouldn't cost a huge amount of money.
Let's move to the Times and talk about the government's early prisoner release programme. The article there starting with a man jailed for breaking his partner's jaw and another who told his ex-partner he was enjoying it as he attacked her are among domestic abusers to be freed from jail next Tuesday under the government's early release scheme. Susie?
Yeah, this is chilling and there's no other way to describe it. Domestic abusers who had relatively light sentences, I would say, anyway, for their initial offence. If you've broken someone's jaw, if you've attacked a driver in the street, as some of the people that are mentioned in these stories, different cases, you know, headbutting your partner, punching and kicking them, to get out after 40% of your sentence I think means you're probably at some risk of reoffending. Your partner, your former partner, your victim is going to be extremely concerned. Even if those gentlemen are completely reformed characters and have seen the error of their ways, their victims are not going to be terribly chuffed about this. However, I would just add, one of the people in here, Connor Shaw, who's going to be released after serving less than 13 months of his sentence. He got a 32-month sentence. He's being let out at the 40% point. Had he been let out under the previous rules, which were there under the last government, because he'd been let out after 16 months. You know, it's a 3-month difference. It's not massive. It is simply the fact that domestic abusers in this country and domestic abuse in generally does not get talked about, does not get prosecuted, does not get punished nearly as firmly as it should be in all possible ways.
And isn't that the problem?
You
You say it's only 3 months less, but of course it's 3 months less of a sentence that people already think is too lenient.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Tim and Susie, we must leave it there. We're going to take a break. Coming up, is it rude of Sir Ian McKellen to call the late Queen rude? It shall not pass without comment. When we come back, do stay with us.
They've pushed the protesters further back here. There's around 200 or 300 still remaining.
I'm Dan Whitehead and I'm Sky News' West of England correspondent.
This van goes onto the streets of Plymouth 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
These facilities at the moment are a lifesaver. It's all we've got.
From fishing communities to bustling cities, we spend every day reporting from across the region, hearing from people who have real stories.
I'll have nowhere to live for about 3 or 4 months.
There are still people inside the properties here.
They're coming from the epicentre of what is now a global health pandemic. We were seeing and speaking to young women who were selling themselves right on the high street. It was desperately sad, and the fact it was happening right in the heart of this community.
Before Brexit, these oysters were being exported to the EU, but the trade stopped overnight.
What's your feeling about the future then?
Blake might all be finished, I don't know.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. Still with me, Tim Montgomery and Susie Boniface. Let's take a look at the Telegraph and the latest England manager, the newly appointed Lee Carsley, says that he won't be singing the national anthem at the game tomorrow. Why not, Tim?
Well, it's not entirely clear, really. There's sort of two possible explanations. One is that he's a dreadful traitor and won't sing our national anthem, which I think is really a bit unfair, but that seems to be the Telegraph's influence. The other, he says, well, he's never really sung the national anthem. You know, when he was a player, you know, the time between getting ready and playing was a time of concentration, so he didn't sing any national anthem. What I think the Telegraph are trying to play up is the fact that because he has played for the Republic of Ireland in the past, England are playing the Republic of Ireland in this match, that somehow there's a deference to the Troubles and the reconciliation since. Now, maybe there is an element of that, but no, I think I wouldn't... I love singing the national anthem. I sing it as heartily as I possibly can, but I think let's not get too upset about this. And for it to be the front page story in a major national newspaper, I think we need to get a little bit more sensible about this.
Susie, do you think it's a non-story? Because he does say, I fully respect both anthems and understand how much they mean to both countries. It's something I'm really respectful of.
Yeah. It's confected, and you can guarantee whenever there is a match between Scotland and England, or Ireland and England, or England, well, anybody else in the world who ever invaded at some point, the
Which is quite a few countries. There's quite a few of those.
There's a list, yeah. The sports would go, well, will you sing the national anthem, especially with someone maybe who shares allegiances between those two sides? And there's always going to be this. And it actually says in here, you know, there are two players on the team, Declan Rice and Jack Grealish, who both played for Ireland previously, and they've been asked the same question. And it's just, it's there to be done because there's a big match coming up. Let's try and make a story out of it.
If anywhere, it should be on the back page, not the front page. If anywhere at all.
It's a sports story. Maybe it's an inside story. It's definitely not a front page lead. If I was
interesting, you agree?
You agree? Riotous agreement.
Right, we've just got time for the front page of the Star. I think it's in other papers as well. So Ian McKellen, suggestions that he's been rude about the Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah, he said that in a lineup at some point, you know, she was meeting all these actors as she has to do repeatedly, and she made some remark like, "Oh, does anybody go to the theatre anymore?" Which, yes, probably was a bit rude in some contexts. But we don't know that she meant it that way, and we don't know that he meant it that way. But the fact is, I think, would he have said it if she were still alive? I suspect probably not.
Should you say it of anyone? You know, it's a basic rule. Don't speak ill of the dead. And these were private conversations, and it's the late Queen, for goodness sake. Why? You know, we've got one national treasure attacking another national treasure. We get David Attenborough involved soon. It'll be terrible.
Judi Dench,
our national treasures should respect
off.
each other. You know,
not good. No. But
we're agreeing too much tonight, Susie.
Sorry.
Thank you both, Susie and Tim. We shall leave it there. Let's take a look at the weather for you now. Well, the north-south divide in our weather will continue this weekend with more rain to come for southern Britain. Most places will have a warm and dry start with extensive low cloud in the south and east, but the odd shower is likely. South Wales and central, southern and eastern England will stay rather grey through the morning, with showery rain developing. Elsewhere, it'll be mainly dry and warm again, with plenty of sunshine, but some coastal areas will be grey and cool, especially around the North Sea. The afternoon may bring a few showers to eastern Scotland and northwest England, while some heavy and thundery ones could develop further south. Elsewhere, there'll be little change into the evening. Sunday looks more widely unsettled, with England, Wales and southern and eastern Scotland seeing heavy showers, some prolonged. Thundery downpours will bring the risk of localised flooding. Coming up next on Sky News at 11, the Israeli military is accused of killing an American woman in the West Bank. We'll have the latest at the top of the hour.